Hello everybody and welcome to Motorsport Live and the Motorsport Live show here on a Wednesday evening. It is 5 p.m. UK time, so GMT, and this is where we'll be every week along with our weekend roundup show, which is on a Monday evening at the same time, 5 p.m. Hello and welcome if you're watching live. Hello and welcome if you're watching on catch up, because all of these streams are on our YouTube channel, which is Motorsport Live. And our Twitch channel, which is Motorsport Life Official, and you can go and watch them there. So hello if you're on that. So we are today, we're not talking about the weekend just gone. We'll talk a little bit about what's going on this weekend, but first and foremost, we're just kind of chatting about the stories that have come out this week. After the weekend. There's always a lot of rumours, a lot of stories, that aren't necessarily to do with race results. So hopefully we'll have time to go through it all. But as always, if you want to get involved, then message us in the chat. It will come up below or on the screen, shall I say, in that chat box that you see. This is all getting updated very soon. So hopefully it will look a lot less kind of homemade, which it was by me. But hopefully, it'll look a lot less homemade than it currently does. So, without further ado, we will go on to the first topic, which, as you can see at the top of the screen there, it says W Series. So, for those of you who may not be aware, the W Series is a new for 2019 series that was launched by... Now, it's a lady who launched it. I can't remember her name, but she was a CEO at a very big company, I seem to remember. But there's people involved like David Coulthard, who are ambassadors for the championship. And it's a female-only single-seater series based on the Tatas Formula 3 chassis. It's a global motorsport, so it will be travelling around the world. And it's very divisive, as you can imagine. Anything to do with, gender gap, or, anything to do with men and women doing different things, it's always going to be controversial. So I just thought we'd have a chat about that, because there's been an update recently of where they're at with it. So I thought it'd be interesting to talk about that. I'm going to start off with my opinion, and it is only my opinion. I don't expect everyone to agree with it. But the main thing is that I am open-minded. So by that, I mean I'm going to wait and see. I'm not going to pass any final judgment until I've seen it work, maybe 1 or 2 seasons before you can actually kind of say, whether it's successful or not. And I guess the way that we'll know if it's successful is that somebody graduates from the W Series into a top-line single-seater seat. And by that, I mean... something on the Grand Prix calendar, or Formula E, I would say. So if somebody gets into Formula E, Formula 2, or Formula 1, obviously, ideally for them, then you have to say that it's a success. And I'm happy to see where that goes. Now, what a lot of people are saying, or people who are against the idea are saying, is that it is only... making the division in motorsport even worse than it already is. They're saying that there is obviously a big gender equality in motorsport. It's very male dominated. There are female racers, obviously, but when you start to get up into the higher echelons, they're very few and far between. And they're saying that if you're then segregating them out of this, then they're going to be... then it's going to cause issues, because you're segregating them away. It's saying that they can't be mixed in with men, and men can't be mixed in with women in motorsport. It's saying that, they're not worthy, or, men are better, or women are better. It's not, it's not helping. Now, there's an argument to say that, well, in all other sports, men and women are split, in tennis, football, swimming, everything, athletics, Olympics, whatever, they're all split into male and female, men's championship, women's world record, men's world record. But I see that as a positive thing for motorsport, that it doesn't discriminate, and it kind of says that anyone can be successful. Look at the people, look at people like Danica Patrick, who have been very successful over in the States. We're still really looking for somebody from Europe, to break through into, talking like, top level, whether that's LMP1 or Formula One or Formula E, obviously. Got people like Simona De Silvestre in the Australian Supercar, Formula V8 Supercar Championship, who, are doing their own thing, but just not quite making it. But you're obviously, or not obviously, again, that's the wrong word. There's always going to be a smaller pool of women to select drivers from. A lot of sponsors might jump on it as oh look, we're sponsoring a female racing driver, whereas in fact you should just be sponsoring them because they're a good driver, or they're good media, or they fit with your brand. So I think it's really interesting. And so just to talk about what is going on then, so just click over to this. That's not the right thing. This is. So the W Series names 28 drivers for final part of its selection process. So as you'll see here, the new all-female W Series has revealed the 28 drivers to have progressed to the next stage of its selection process after 3 days of intensive assessment in Austria. So what they had was they had 54, or they invited 54 female drivers to go to Austria for a 3-day assessment. Now the assessment was on track in a it says somewhere along here, Ford Fiesta ST and a Porsche Cayman S road car rather than single seaters. And their mental aptitude, their media, and their physical ability. Now, including W Series directors, here we go, David Coulthard and Dave Ryan, as well as former IndyCar driver Lynn St. James. Alexander Wirtz was also served as a judge when the assessment program using the same criteria as the FIA Institute employed as part of its Young Driver Excellence Academy, which Alex Wirtz was, I think, the head of. Fitness and mental agility and comprehensive media sessions were also undertaken into consideration before a race of champion-style challenge informed a final decision on Monday. Now, what I'm going to say about that is that firstly, the great thing is that all of the Brits who entered got through. So let me see if I can remember this. Jamie Chadwick, Esme Hawkey, Sarah Moore, Alice Powell, and I've forgotten the last person's name, Jessica Hawkins. They all made it through. And here's a list of the successful drivers. Some names you'll know, some names you won't, like Natalie Decker's quite famous in America. Who else have we got? Stephanie Cox, whose father is Peter Cox, very famous GT driver. And I think that's all of the names that I recognise. So they've got through. 28 drivers are through to the next stage, and I think that it will then get whittled down to 18 drivers with another 20, with a couple of, reserve drivers. That's it. So, yeah, you'll see here the final grid of 18 drivers plus 2 reserves will then be selected ahead of the first round at Hockenheim in May. The next stage of selection process will take place across 4 days in Almeria in southern Spain in March, where candidates will test the actual F3 car that's being used in W Series. Now, I have a bit of experience with this, just because I've worked on Nissan GT Academy, which obviously was a selection process, using media training, fitness training, on-track training, fitness training, etc. So I understand the process. I usually think it's done pretty well. It does usually give you an idea of who the most focused and determined people are, who the quickest are in car, obviously, the most improved, things like that. So I think it's a decent process. They're obviously pumping a lot of money in, doing a 3-day test in Austria, then a 4-day test in Almeria. It's going to be a lot of money, but that's the way they want to do it. And I think that's very much one of the questions that people have said is, why are they pumping all of this money into a female-specific series when maybe what they should do is do a bit of a selection process from a smaller pool of people and back that driver. We all know that motorsport is very expensive, and the biggest barrier to entry is, is the money. So why people don't, why the organisers don't put money into just backing somebody and putting them through a more conventional route, you know, through Formula 3, GP2, Formula 1, like somebody like Mick Schumacher, or even into Super Formula. That's one of the biggest questions, and I have to say that's one of my biggest concerns or questions, is why they haven't gone down that route and they've decided to go into their own championship as opposed to just, you know, backing a driver, or even two. You know, with the amount of money that they're spending on this, you could back two drivers to a pretty high level, and then, you know, again, if one's doing better than the other, you could always focus that down. So I think W Series, as I said, I am going to reserve full judgment until it's actually happened and we see the results of it and we see what the racing's like. And then one final concern that people had was the fact that these drivers aren't going to be put against the best drivers in the world. They're not being showcased, so they might be, be very successful in W Series, but then put them in another single-seater championship against other drivers who've been in that championship for longer. You know, they've been against male drivers for longer. Not saying they're better, but, you know, they might end up in a position where, you know, they then aren't successful at all. And then I would say that is worst case scenario. But anyway, let's see what happens, shall we? And but we'll keep an eye on it. We'll keep talking about it in this Motorsport Live. If you've got any opinions on it, please let me know. Either in the chat below if you're on YouTube, or let us know on Twitter @motorsportlife_, and we're also on Instagram, which is @motorsportlifeofficial. Sorry for all the different names, but we're trying to work on getting those names, them all to be Motorsport Life or Motorsport Life Official. So that's W Series, and hopefully that gives you a better understanding of what's going on. One final thing, sorry to say on that, is that one of the Australian competitors, Charlotte Pointing, has questioned the judging process as she missed out because she feels that she did very well. She came 5th, I think, in the head-to-head driving. She pushed her hardest. She finished equal 5th out of 54 in the race of champion, excelled above the others who made it through in their other modules but somehow didn't make it. Now, it's very difficult to say, obviously, without being there, but a lot of people will be questioning that. You know, who knows what's going on behind the scenes. You know, she might not have given off a very good impression of herself, personality-wise. I don't know. There will, of course, probably be talks of foul play, unfortunately. But hey, we don't know, do we? And that actually leads me on to an interesting article here, which I just saw. Carmen Jorda has explained her absence from the W Series driver selection. So Carmen Jorda, who was a Renault F1 development driver at one stage and fairly poor GP3 driver at one stage, got selected to go to this selection process in Austria, but she had a problem. Or she didn't actually say what the problem was, but she didn't actually end up attending. Now, she has said that she didn't attend. Why did she say again? I'd like to announce that I won't be part of the W Series for its first season, as it's been a pleasure for me to help and promote a championship for women. This W Series during the past month, but unfortunately we couldn't find an agreement that could fill my sponsors' needs. I'd like to wish the very best to W Series and all its competitors. Motorsport is my passion and my way of life. News about what I'll be doing for 2019 season will come soon. Now, the issue we had was hang on one second, sorry. So the issue we had with Carmen Jorda was that she was actually quite negative about trying to work out what's going on here. It is streaming, I think. Yeah, we are streaming. Fine. It said that I wasn't on one of them. Now, one sec. Just let me have a look at this. Sorry. So this now doesn't say that I'm live on here, which is a bit of a pain. Hopefully I am live on YouTube, but Why would it not be streaming on YouTube? That's annoying. Okay, anyway, so we were talking about Carmen Jorda. So she was reasonably controversial even before this came out, because of the things that she said about women in motorsport. I can't remember. Jorda raced in a series long ago. She recently made a print from an E-test at the end of last year. No. So I can't remember what she said, but she said something reasonably controversial about women drivers and them not being at the same level as men and that sort of thing. And so it doesn't surprise me that she's pulled out of this. She says like she's got some big plans for 2019. And as somebody has said in the comments at the bottom of this, they've said, this can be translated to, I'm so overrated that all the other ladies will blow me away. So my sponsors decided to save my face by not paying up. I mean, probably quite harsh, but hey, let's see what happens. We'll see if she does join. But anyway, that is definitely now it for that is it for W Series. Let's move on to our next topic. Okay, so we are going to move on to rallying. As you can see, topic 2. This one should be a bit shorter than W Series. I just thought that W Series was a pretty good way to get started because it's quite a meaty subject. So if I type in the chat just to explain, we're talking about rallying right now. This should, I've got a problem with my A key on my keyboard. This should, appear in the chat box. So if you want to get involved, then please do. Really annoying. Oh, this isn't working. Bear with me a second. Hello everybody, apologies, but I am now hopeful that we are online and chatting on YouTube as well. I had a bit of an issue there. Let's just see if this comes back. So yeah, we're going to be talking about rallying, and there's a specific reason for that. Obviously we had the kickoff of the WRC season. WRC, or the Championship, World Rally Championship. We also had a certain Valtteri Bottas taking part in a rally in Finland. He managed to finish 5th. And I really like rallying. If you saw my stream earlier this week, then you will see that I was very gushing about WRC this season. I think it's going to be great with all the different manufacturers that are involved. And yeah, I think it's great. Now, there's 2 things I want to talk about. Firstly, let's talk about Valtteri Bottas. And then secondly, I want to talk about rallying feeder series, so not just the WRC. We saw after the weekend that Valtteri Bottas finished in 5th overall, if you have a look here. So he was racing in a a Ford Fiesta R5 spec, which is WRC2 standard. Was competing against Finnish championship drivers who were less powerful. Oh, so he was in a WRC car, but they were in an R5 specification. Wow, okay, I didn't actually know that. He claimed a stage win on his rallying debut, finishing 5th overall. Driving a Ford Fiesta WRC, Bottas driving a car similar in spec to those currently being driven by M Sports World Rally was competing against Finnish Championship drivers who were in less powerful R5 specification. Okay, that changes things a little bit. What I do want to have a look at is this article here, how Bottas fared on his rallying debut. Now, I'm going to say right now that I think rallying is the most skillful of motorsport disciplines. I think that obviously with the difference in terrain and weather and the fact that you need to learn pace notes and do a lot of driving in between stages, etc., I think the ability to drive in those conditions consistently and quickly is unbelievable. And I think anybody who can do it at kind of any level is very good. So the fact that Valtteri Bottas has done this and has done pretty well, fair play to him. Fair play. One sec. So if we look at this article here, so this is a no BS assessment of what Valtteri Bottas did during his debut. He entered in association with the Finnish governing body's Flying Fin project to support young drivers, which is great. The Finnish Rally Championship and AKK Motorsport, Bottas finished a credible 5th on the Arctic Lapland Rally. Okay, so that's a video. Was that it? I thought that there was a... Okay, with his rallying technique, I think we're going to have to go back to this one here. Right. After a slow start, he 7th and 9th after time on the opening 2 stages, but he climbed up and he did win a stage, which was great. Mika Salo was also competing in an identical Principal Fabio, recovering from 43rd place after stage 1 to finish 11th. So it doesn't really give you much. I mean, if he's in a WRC car and the competitors are an R5 specification, then that does show the difference between seasoned rally drivers and an F1 driver who is dabbling, let's say. So I think it's great that he's backing that initiative for the Flying Fin initiative. I think that's great to see. He obviously likes driving, which is again great to see, and we'll come on to Fernando Alonso shortly, but I'm all for drivers to be doing different championships. You know, Valtteri Bottas doing this, he might, you know, if he's doing that, then he might do things like rallycross, which would be great to see. And I always hope that it'll open up doors to other people. Obviously, Nico Hülkenberg winning Le Mans a few years ago with the Porsche, that kind of made people go, oh, okay, we could do other things. And Alonso has now kind of followed suit, which is great. One thing I want to talk about then on rallying as well, after Bottas's kind of success, was the lack of coverage and the lack of infrastructure that there seems to be in WRC2. So that's obviously the feeder series to WRC. They've brought the name of it in line with kind of how Formula 1 does it with Formula 2. They've called it WRC2. But I watched the results, and, you know, if you follow the WRC on YouTube and you subscribe to it, you'll see that there was highlights. And I was like, oh, great, there's highlights to WRC2. I'll check this out because there's not that much coverage of it. And I saw that Gus Greensmith, British driver, won, which I was like, fantastic. But then, this is the bit, I found out that he won by 13 minutes to the only other competitor, which is Kalle Rovanperä, who is tipped to be one of the next World Rally Championship winners. Harry Rovanperä's son, and he's very young. I think he's only like 17 or something ridiculous. But he won by 13 minutes because Kalle Rovanperä he went off at the same place as Timo Sunninen in the WRC car, literally crashed into the back of his car in the ditch. And that was it, done. Gus Greensmith then just had to finish, and not taking anything away from him. But I was like, 2 competitors? Really? That's all that we've got? That's ridiculous. So that was disappointing to see, and I hope that they can get more interest in it. It'd be great to see more manufacturer backing. You know, there's loads of drivers out there who are talented enough. You know, these people in the R5 machinery doing the Finnish Rally Championship, the British Rally Championship. There's loads of people, so I don't know, and I kind of want to do more research into what the issue is getting people into this WRC2 category. But it is very disappointing to see, especially when you've got drivers like Craig Breen, who's, you know, not managed to secure a WRC drive. It'd be great to see him go back to WRC2, because as we've seen from that Bottas result, the R5 cars aren't that far off the pace of a WRC car. So it would be great to see him get involved and, you know, then make a name for himself by winning that. But it doesn't seem to be a thing. You know, he's dabbling in other things as well. He is driving an R5 car, but not in WRC2. So that's a shame. But anyway, that covers rallying. But as always, if you've got anything to talk about or discuss with me about rallying, then please do let us know in the comments or in the chat if you're watching right now. So onwards and upwards. So the next topic we are going to be talking about is F1's future. Now, this should be quite a brief one, but I'm talking about this because of an article that I saw on Autosport. I'm going to have to see if I can find it. Right. There's 2, actually. So firstly, I want to have a look at this this article. So it's on Autosport, the varied visions of Formula One's potential future. An open Formula One rulebook is a tantalising prospect for designers and engineers, with McLaren Applied Technologies becoming the latest to conceptualise Grand Prix racing's future last week. Now, let's see if I can find... Have they not linked that? So here it is. So it seems to be becoming a trend for F1 teams and or manufacturers to come up with what they think Formula One of the future is going to look like. Now, I have a bit of a problem with this. My feeling is kind of, well, could they not be concentrating on making F1 as good as it could be now? But that's a different story. But you see, there's lots of different versions. So there's the Red Bull X 2010, designed in 2010. It's not a Formula One prototype, as it says there. That was for Gran Turismo, but, you know, it's a concept for a car driving very fast around a track. Could be F1. Then we got the McLaren MP4X. McLaren delved into the world of imagination before. Emerging from the back of the dismal 2015 F1 season. So that maybe that's why they do it. They're like, oh, we've had a bad season, let's come up with a prototype that will look cool and people think we're cool again. Who knows? A few months after Ferrari released a basic design of a car to show how simple it would be to make sweeping design changes. It is not certain whether the McLaren designers had a free time frame developed, but perhaps they came up with MP4X as an idealistic vision for what F1's future should be like. Built around a combustion engine with super efficient fuels. Now, I like the sound of that. I think that's cool. Renault have been involved, Formula 2021, and then the newest one, which was McLaren MCL Extreme Matt's Future Grand Prix. Yet another name from McLaren that rolls off the tongue beautifully. 310 mile an hour won't happen. Tracks aren't safe enough. They slow the cars down now because they're too quick. Powered by a foldable battery with a shape-shifting aero and car technology that would include an onboard AI, co-pilot and self-healing tyres. See, that sort of technology I can believe. I've seen various things about that. So I can believe that sort of thing happening with healing bodywork and stuff. It sounds bonkers, and it is McLaren but McLaren Applied Technologies' in-depth look at what car, driver, tracks and fan experience could evolve into was rooted in plenty of science, not just fantasy. Its idea for a futuristic race circuit includes steeply banked corners, pit lanes with the capacity for battery charging, and circuits that can adapt to extreme weather and have blackout zones with no communication or AI assistance for the driver. There shouldn't be AI assistance for a driver. If there's a driver in the car, they should be driving it. If it's something like Robo Race, then fine. That's a different story. But anyway, so do I think any of these will happen? Probably in some form. But the issue that I have, as I said, is the problem that I have is that, you know, let's try and get F1 at this time sorted, because it's in a bit of a bad place. Although last year did help a lot. I think if they can kick on this year, then we should be in a good place if they can get a good title battle going. It was looking good, obviously, halfway through the season, but then old Lewis disappeared into the distance, didn't he? So, interesting. But F1's future, I'm not sure. Let's see. Right, on to the next one. Okay, so the next one is Fernando Alonso, everybody's favourite subject. So why are we talking about Fernando Alonso? Well, he is obviously no longer an F1 driver, but he is probably the most famous F1 driver other than Lewis Hamilton. Most famous current racing driver, I would say. And whatever he does, people follow him. People, you know, critique him. People think he's great. So I thought that we would have a chat about him, what he's doing, and what the potential is for him to be doing in the future. Because obviously there's talk about the Triple Crown, the Endurance Triple Crown. And so it'd be great to see what people think and what we can do. Now, as we know, he has won now the Daytona 24 this year. He has, what's the word? He has won the Le Mans 24 Hours, but in the Endurance Triple Crown, he has not won the Sebring 12 Hours. Now, this is where it gets slightly confusing and annoying to try and explain to somebody who might not be a Formula One, a motorsport fan. He is racing at Sebring later this year with Toyota, but it is merely a WEC round, a World Endurance Championship round, as opposed to the 12-hour. So even if he does win that, it won't be down as winning the 12 hours of Sebring because it's not 12 hours, if that makes sense. So that's confusing, but that is on the list. Now, again, Autosport did a great article today that I was really happy that came out, and I'll show you it now. So, oh, my button's broken. Oh, well, I can do it from here. Yeah, so the 7 big races Alonso still needs to win. Now, at first I was like, 7? But then I kind of got it, and I'm excited. Let's say that. As a racing car fan and a Fernando Alonso fan, I'm excited. Because even if he does a smidgen of this, it's going to be great. And there's one bit in particular that I want to talk about. Excuse me. So, as Alonso said, if I want to be the best driver in the world, there are 2 options. I win 8 Formula 1 World Championships, 1 more than Michael, which is very unlikely. We know that. The second one is to win different series in different moments of my career and be a driver that can race and win in any car in any series. Now, I think you'd have to get rid of rallying. I think it's been shown that that's probably too hard for him to go into. So let's go with circuit racing is what he needs to do. And then you go on to read that obviously he... Oh, for God's sake. 1 minute. Sorry. Bear with me a second. Sorry, I had a lot less time to prepare than normal for this because I had to be on the phone to my broadband provider. Isn't that lovely? Right. Back up and running. So, So Fernando Alonso. So he had a crack at the Indy 500 last year. He was doing very well. He potentially could have won, but obviously his Honda engine broke down. Now, he will be doing it again in May. I don't even know if it's been officially announced, but he will be doing it because it's one of the Triple Crown with the Monaco Grand Prix. Where is it? I can't even remember what the Triple Crown is now. Yada, yada, yada. Yeah, Monaco Grand Prix, Le Mans 24 Hour, and the Indy 500. Which arguably for the Monaco Grand Prix, you could say the World Championship, Le Mans 24 Hour, and Indy 500. Now, one thing that this article goes on to, it says, well, obviously there's a lot of other very famous motorsport events, which have a lot of prestige around them. Now, it's interesting because one thing I don't like about this whole thing is that they seem to completely disregard Fernando Alonso's teammates. So like Kamui Kobayashi and Jordan Taylor and the other one, let's call him, from Daytona, it's all Alonso wins, and then the first paragraph of an article is all about Alonso, forgetting the teammates. But I guess he's the one that is bringing people in. So, why would they talk about everybody else, and that's who people are going to read about? But anyway, put that to one side. He's going to try the Indy 500 again this year. But other races that he needs to try. So he's talked about trying out Daytona 500 in a NASCAR, which I think will be very tricky. That is such a different style of racing for him. Old school, they've only got 4 gears, I think. They're big, heavy cars with small brakes, completely different technique. So I kind of feel if he was to do that, it would be a different, not a different, but kind of a future plan kind of later on after we've tried some other things. Now, what the web article also goes on to say is to talk about the other prestigious 24-hour races that there are in the world, which we know are Spa and the Nürburgring. So Spa is probably the most prestigious, but it is now being pushed very hard by the Nürburgring 24 hours because it used to be a bit of a club event, but now manufacturers are getting behind it, and GT races, the very high level GT races are getting into it and making it more and more prestigious. So that would mean then that Fernando Alonso would need to do GT3 racing, which is obviously what these regulations are. So he'd need to race in either a McLaren, a BMW, a Porsche, an Audi, a Ferrari, one of the above, with a team to see if he could do it. Now, I don't think that's beyond the realms of possibility. People like Giancarlo Fisichella, who I imagine he knows very well from being his teammate at Renault F1 team, has done it with Ferrari. I don't know if he's won. I mean, he's done GT3 racing. So it'd be interesting to see if he would. Do that, because I think if he could win one or both of those, or certainly the Spa 24 hour, which is probably a bit easier. I say easier just because of circuit learning and procedures and stuff for the Nordschleife. I think that would be great. I'd love to see him try it. And then there's the whole Nordschleife. Kind of talk. Would he go and race at the Nürburgring? It's very dangerous for somebody at his stage of his career. It's a very unforgiving circuit, as we know. I'm sure he could, step into any team and they would happily, they would happily run him. He'd have to step up into, one of the big teams, probably an Audi or maybe a McLaren he could get in with. But it would take a lot of learning the circuit and procedures. But you could do VLNs and do that fairly incognito and, pick that up. But again, I think that would have to be kind of in line with, or not in line with, run parallel with Spa at the same time, because he would need to get the time in. And then going into other ones on this list, they're talking about Spa, and then if he did those, then why not Macau? The GT3 World Cup. Again, great idea in my opinion. And he would get kind of some prestige around doing that, because it's, again, a very different challenge. It's a full-on street circuit. Now, he's won the Monaco Grand Prix. It's very different in a GT car, but that would be great. We've already mentioned Daytona 500, which I think would be very difficult. But again, he has said that he would like to try a NASCAR, but I think that would be so hard. But finally, the Bathurst 1000, which is the coolest of all of them. One of my favourite motorsport championships in the world is the Australia Supercar Championship. I think the cars are great. They sound great. They've stuck with like sequential gearboxes. The cars are cool. The show's cool. The racing is cool. You know, they're long distance races. They have multiple sprint races or one long race with, you know, pit stops and stuff. And I think that it's fantastic. I would love to see Fernando Alonso go to Bathurst 1000. So that would then mean that he would need to be a teammate for a full-time supercar driver. I don't think he would do a full-time season. He would obviously have to do a lot of testing. But it would be really interesting to see. Again, very different to what it would be, even different to GT3 cars. Different kind of technique. You have to do a lot of trail braking and things, I'm led to believe. And that's the one that I'd be most excited about. That and Nürburgring 24 hours. I'd love to see Fernando Alonso do. But again, let me know what you think. Are you a fan of Fernando Alonso? Do you think he should be trying all of these different things? Or do you think he should kind of focus on just like the Indy 500, finish off his WEC championship? Because he said he doesn't know if he'll carry on. I'd be surprised if he did. Just because of all the other options I've just said that he's looking at. And he'll be talking to teams and getting his manager to look out for options, etc. So, Fernando Alonso, legend. Let's see what he gets up to, but hopefully it's some of the above. Okay, on to the next one, which we're only going to talk about in a little bit of detail, but it's helmet designs. Now, you'll see here my baby. So this is my Arai GP6 helmet. It is my pride and joy. It looks massive when you hold it like that, doesn't it? But it is my pride and joy, and you can't understand how much a custom painted, put it on this side, you know, how much a custom painted helmet means to a driver. Now, professionals are very, very lucky. They get to, you know, get new helmets all the time. They get, you know, special one-offs for various different races. And, you know, they probably still mean a lot to them, and I'm sure that they'll keep them all. But the fact that this is my only one, it's probably the only one I'll ever be able to afford, because I was very lucky to get it at a very reduced rate for various reasons. But it is one of the coolest things that I own. And the paint job, so the crown was actually inspired by Chris Harris. I saw a video of him driving a road legal Formula Ford, and he had a helmet on and the crown looked like that. I've always liked the idea of having a kind of a crown section. I've always liked the colours red, black and white with a bit of grey. It's quite Kimi Räikkönen, who's my favourite driver. And I just tried to keep it simple, really. I think you can go a bit overboard, and it being my first and probably only helmet for a long time, I didn't want to go overboard and, you know, and regret it and then be stuck with it, because I'm not like a professional driver who can just be like, oh, my next one in 6 months I can change. But yeah, absolutely love it, and hopefully you guys too. The helmet behind over this shoulder here, this is an off-the-shelf, very cheap motocross helmet for when I had a mini moto bike. No, not a mini motorbike, like a pit bike, mini motocross bike. But yeah, that's a sticker, the GoPro one. Tried to get it off, didn't come off, left it on. Oops. But yeah, I absolutely love it, and it is my pride and joy. Now, the reason I wanted to talk about it was because I've discovered on Instagram, and I'll just try and bring it up now, one of my favourite things ever. Bear with me. So if we go on this, the website viewer, so this is our Instagram page, Motorsport Life Official, doing all right. Got 172 followers now, but you'll see here this post was a helmet that I think looks incredible by R-Star Design, who is, in my humble opinion, the best helmet designer and painter I've ever seen, based in Australia. Look at these helmets, they are sick. Like this one, 2018 top 5 helmets. Yeah, that one was sick. That one, I mean, they're all truly awesome. Hooters helmet, I mean, Christ almighty. So you get the idea. Wow, look at that one. So you get the idea, but there's also, the reason I managed to find R-Star Design was this helmet culture, which has now nearly got 20,000 followers. And the cool thing is, they don't just post pictures of helmets. You know, these are submitted by either the painters or owners of the helmets themselves. But what they do, can you view stories on this? Yeah. So they let you, oh, you can't on, interesting. So they post every day helmets, and you have to put if they're fire or not. And what that means is, you know, you then get helmet of the year and helmets of the month, etc. And it's really great. Like, helmets to racing drivers are like so important. Well, not important, but so sentimental. It's like you always see drivers having had them stolen, and it's just horrendous. Especially in my position, you know, I wouldn't be able to just buy a new one. And you can never replace it. It's my first painted helmet. Before that, I was, you know, running standard helmets with even motorbike helmets back in the day. So, you know, they're really cool, and I strongly recommend you go and follow the Helmet Culture Instagram page. There's loads of good stuff being posted on there, and as you can see, you can go and vote on what you think are the best helmet designs out there. Now, and I think that's about it. I love keeping up with helmets and what people have done with them. What drivers have got, like special one-off drivers have got, because obviously some F1 drivers do it, but you know, even like GT drivers and stuff have got them for like Daytona or Le Mans, etc. So it's really interesting, in my opinion. But let me know, do you like helmet designs? Do you have your own helmet? If you do, then send us a picture on Twitter, and we'll retweet it for sure. So we're on to our final topic now, which will be this weekend. Okay, so this weekend coming up then, there is motorsport going on, obviously, and the main one by far has to be the Bathurst 12 hours. Sorry, the Liqui Moly 12 hours of Bathurst, I think is what it's called. Let me just double check. So the Bathurst 12 hours, let me just get you on the right screen, sorry. Yeah, the Bathurst 12 hours does have an official YouTube channel. It's Bathurst 12 hours. Get subscribed to that, which will obviously give you race highlights. They'll give you interviews with drivers, etc. But also make sure that you follow Nismo TV, because they are streaming the whole thing live, which is awesome. If you go on the Bathurst 12 hour, they don't have much on there currently, but they do show kind of flashbacks from last year, driver interviews, etc. But there's going to be a lot going on, especially across Twitter and things like that, which is kind of what has got me excited so far. Is he's watching all of the drivers who are out there tweeting their journeys. You know, Matt Neal and Gordon Shedden are out there for the first time, the British touring car drivers. You know, Shane van Gisbergen and people like that are all out there racing, and I think it's going to be great. There's been some really good finishes. In 2015, I think it was, or maybe in 2016, when Katsumasa Chio-san from Nissan, or racing for Nissan, managed to overhaul the two in front of him with 5 laps to go. That was a nail biter. Last year's finish was a nail biter. Just the track seems to promote it. It's so unforgiving. There's walls all the way along it. It's fast. It's technical, and so much can happen. Obviously, it's 12 hours. Starts at night, ends in the day. Can't remember the timings, but do go and check it out because I think it's going to be awesome. Now, one other thing to show you or to talk about are other things that are going on. Where are we? We've always got Jimmy Broadbent, who is now a very famous. He's just hit 200,000 subscribers on YouTube. He will be streaming throughout the weekend. We have got AMA Supercross as well, which is going to be cool. I love Supercross, as you'll have found out before. But what I'm really looking forward to is the 12 hours. To be honest, that is what I'm going to be focusing on. I am at home on Sunday, which is very rare, so hopefully I will be able to catch up with it a little bit. But hopefully you guys will get involved too. Give us a shout out. Let us know what you think of the race. And as always, get in touch with us. But that is going to be it for the first ever episode of the Motorsport Live Show, or live stream of a Motorsport Live Show on Wednesdays. Tell your friends. Do please follow us. If you go down to the bottom on our Twitch panels, you can find all of our social medias. You can donate to the cause. You can buy our merch. And yeah, get involved is all I can say, because that's why we're here. We're here to shine a light on motorsport in across platforms that aren't just mainstream media. It's not just a news channel. We talk about things. We talk about grassroots motorsport, etc. So hopefully you enjoy it, and I do hope that you can join us again soon. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.